and as a way to be more cost effective and perhaps better situated for the town. And after listening to them and again, frankly, kind of a lack of information on the costs, what the costs are for the Bachelor School renovation, and not getting enough data in which to make a decision on it, the Swan Pond proposal is the only proposal out there that we can decide on. It's the only information that we have in which we can support and have all the right data points, like any business, have the right data points in which you can make a decision on. And I think working with the town, and 80% of the town that does not have kids in the school system is going through the process of looking at the different alternatives. There's a recognized need in the town that we need to have better facilities for the kids. So I think that's a common denominator that's throughout the whole town. But how do you address that? And you address that through really working through the different alternatives. I think the FUMP committee, certainly the school bidding committee, there's been a lot of excellent town initiatives to really look at the landscape and look at the different alternatives, which frankly excites me. It excites me that this town is a lot of involved people in this town that have taken the time and effort to look at these issues and address them based upon the facts they have in front of them. And I think with the right balance that we have achieved through the facilities issue, the space crisis we have in town, has been a good effort balancing the two, what's good for the people and the will of the people. Is a good example of that.
Thank you. Question kind of specific to your background. You have a fairly technical background in dealing with internet and broadband infrastructure. Technology in the classroom is still a fairly new movement, and there's a big push for getting computers and infrastructure into the classrooms and the schools. How do you see that as important, and how is that going to be integrated into the actual delivery of the education curriculum and so on?
Thank you for bringing that up, by the way. Yeah, that's one of the, and I think you made a prior comment in the opening statement about the Swan Pond is not the only issue here, and it's not. There's other issues to address for our school system. And for example, if you look on the state website for the stats of North Reading, you'll see that students per computer is 9.3 versus the state average of 6.3. So it's quite a bit higher on a per computer basis than the rest of the state, as well as classroom computers on the internet is 60 versus 65, 66% for the state. So we are below average on that. That's a small indicator of the need we need to have to kind of bring up the caliber and the access of not just the internet, but just high tech in general in our classroom. As a society, we certainly have form a basis that technology plays a role in all different areas, whether it be the sciences and arts, etc. And we need to kind of address that for the North Reading school system. So one of the things I would work on and work in concert with the people in the town is to incorporate technology in the classrooms, not just computers. It's just we understand how to use technology, how to leverage technology for certain subject matters, all subject matters actually. So it's not a question of how many PCs we have only, but how to utilize the internet, how to utilize the information out there. Because fundamentally what we really have, what has happened in society is an increased knowledge base, increased increased ability to obtain knowledge and get access to information out there, the information age, as we often refer to. So that's one of the initiatives I would have, is to increase the knowledge base and information base for the school system through the internet, through technology initiatives.
Thank you. You have to give a question to me.
What do you feel is the root cause of the tight school operating budget, and what long-term fiscal solutions would you look to in order to allow North Reading schools to continue to provide the excellent education that they do today?
Well, I think there's three elements that's resulting in having a tight school budget. One is certainly the salaries of the teachers, which is approximately 8% of the budget. The state mandates, the state programs that require all of us, but are not funded by the state. And that's a burden that we have. and also the increased enrollment we have in town. We have had a dramatic increase in number of students we have in town. I think those three elements primarily has played a significant role. Having said that, I think we do have a challenge as a school committee to kind of step up to the educational needs in the town. As I said, that we have approximately 80% of the budget dedicated to teacher salaries and staff salaries, et cetera. 20% is for the rest of the operations of the school committee, the school system. And I think we need as a community to understand where we make strategic investments into our kids' education. One of them is technology, as I mentioned before, but I also think there's other areas such as books and resources, not just computer resources, but also books and other kind of learning resources we can utilize for our kids. So, so one of the things I would do is bring the awareness of other programs, initiatives, and information we need for our kids to kind of step up as a committee to help enhance the quality of education for our kids. And that'd be an important initiative I would pursue.
Thank you. Does anyone have a question from the floor for Mr. Vanbeaver? Mr. Norton, can you give your name?
John Norton, former town official and past president of the Athletic Booster Association. Mr. Vanbeaver, this is going to be a general question, not related to one specific part of the school budget, which is now under user fee. What is your feeling about a cap on, limiting cap on user fees in the future? As you're aware, we've just gone through the initiation of some user fees and extracurricular activities and busing that were not there before. There's also been another rise in the athletic user fee. What would your position be as far as, at some point, a limiting cap on these fees?
Thank you for the question. And I certainly feel strongly that at best we use, kind of, as I said in my ad in the newspaper this week, limited user fees. I think there's a certain reality we have to face as a community that in order to support the budget that we need to implement limited user fees. Now, what I mean by that is that it's not a major source of revenue for this town. It's not used as a way to fill the gap of a $400,000 budget or $200,000 budget even. But for activities which are beyond the basic services of the town, which are not the mandatory services of the town, I think it's okay for user fees. Even though, frankly, I prefer not to see user fees implemented at all. Certainly as a parent in this town, as a taxpayer. But I think we do have a reality here. And when we talk about busing, for example, for user fees, that for people that fall outside the mandated busing for the town, that unfortunately the reality is to pay for that. To address your question specifically, absolutely have limits for families. That obviously situations with 2 kids in school or 3 kids, or in some cases 4 kids in school, becomes a financial burden to support the number of fees for each child. So I do believe strongly that there should be limits for families in town and based upon user fees. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Anyone have one? Yes, Mr.
Laura McMullen. I have a question concerning professional negotiators. I've read your candidate profile, and you mentioned that you basically do not support professional negotiators unless the situation warrants it. If you're in the middle of negotiating a contract, I don't necessarily believe that's the time to go out and try to find a professional negotiator. That would obviously have to be done before the negotiation begins. So I'm just really wondering, we're in the school department, it is 80% to salaries as far as the budget goes. My concern is that we've got to try to keep control of salaries, and I'm wondering what you really do think about professional negotiators.
Again, thank you for the question. Appreciate that. You know, I've had experience working in my prior job with unions, and have found that if you have an open dialogue with each other, if you have a premise to the discussions, most times you can get through the discussion and result in final negotiations, a final contract, without requiring a negotiator or a formal lawyer to be involved in negotiations. Frankly, I don't know enough details about negotiation in this town. From what I've heard in the past, has been fairly positive. They have reached agreement. It hasn't resulted in, seems undue anxiety. So my perception, at least, is that it's been a fairly positive experience, and therefore a negotiation is not required. But as I stated in my response, you know, I'm certainly open-minded about and not opposed to it. I think it's more, you know, based upon the circumstances that if there is not kind of a premise or a collaboration between the two parties where they get to a reasonable resolution, then I would favor having a negotiator come in before, not in the middle of the negotiations, in the beginning, certainly. And I think that you determine pretty quickly, you know, again, my experience with unions in the past is that you know before the first meeting that there's going to be some issues, some significant issues or not. And if there appears to be significant issues and there won't be a fast response to the negotiations, then I think it's prudent to have a negotiator involved. But I don't know the exact details of how the negotiations in this town, nor kind of the landscape of that today, so it's hard for me to make a definitive, but I'm certainly open-minded about having a negotiator. Preference is not to have one. That's clearly, you know, my preference in my experience. But we'll see how things go in North Reading.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. One of the issues that we put forward in the profile was MCAS. And
yep.
So if elected, you're going to be making decisions and within the next 2 years. You'll be on the board for 3 years. You'll be handling students who will potentially be graduating without, or not graduating, I should say, because they have failed MCAS as the structure stands now. So the question is, 2 years from now, we're looking at seniors who may or may not be getting a diploma. What's your plan for those seniors dealing with MCAS deficits?
Well, certainly, I hope there are people graduating, regardless of having to do with the MCAS test. I mean, overall, I do support MCAS tests, but only as one performance indicator. I do not support it is used as the indicator for the performance of our students in town. You know, I have to be honest with you that, you know, having grown up with a severe learning disability and speech impairment when I was kind of cast by test, I have an inherent aversion to those type of tests because I was cast as a person who never go to college, a person who never do anything besides some sort of trade. So therefore, you know, I only view MCAS to be part of a larger plan, part of a larger performance measurement. I think taking kids' grades in school is really important. I think taking the extra activities they do in school, the leadership they provide in the school is extremely important. My understanding of MCAS, which I have read up on, that there is several opportunities for kids to pass, as well as circumstances. If kids have special needs of some sort, they can get allowances or have, you know, some special assistance given to them as a result of MCAS. So my belief is that we won't have the case where a lot of kids will fail or not pass high school because of MCAS. And through just being diligent on looking at the whole picture, you know, providing MCAS as one indicator and providing good form. I mean, I was looking, for example, on the state thing, I'm seeing that at least in 1998 that we had, you know, 65% of our students go to 4-year colleges and 14% go to 2-year colleges, with 0% going directly to work. So that's a pretty remarkable achievement that the school system in North Reading has achieved, and I expect to continue to achieve that, enable kids to go to college of their choosing.
Well, I appreciate your perspective on MCAS, but at least as it stands, and I've heard other state reps saying similar things, the fact is, as it stands right now, MCAS says either you pass or you don't graduate, and so